Today is April 18th. It is a little after 6 p.m. Dogs are just going to keep barking. I might have mentioned this in one of the last videos, but it's a 13-year-old German Shepherd downstairs, and sometimes she just kind of randomly barks. I keep trying to get her to calm down, and I feel like every time I come back here, she'll just randomly bark again. Anyway, doesn't matter. So, I am a little over a week and a half into starting my TRT, HRT, whatever you want to call it, my testosterone replacement therapy. So as I believe I mentioned in the last video or 2 videos ago, I'm taking 180 milligrams of testosterone per week, and I'm doing that as a small daily dose as a subcutaneous injection. So I'm breaking that up into 7 daily shots, which actually breaks down into 0.13 6 days a week and 0.12 1 day a week, milliliters, that is. Now, my doctor did recommend to do it as 2 shots a week. He also recommended to start off with 200. As I mentioned before, I did not want to start off quite that much, just because I feel like a lot of guys that I know who have taken TRT, that they're often started there, and it seems like it's a little bit much for a lot of them, where a lot of them say they just, I don't know, I won't get into it, but we'll just say feel like they're teenage hornballs all the time and they can't focus on anything else. And that's not the goal, right? The goal is to feel good, to perform better, to have more energy, to have more focus, and I'm not looking for help in that department at all. It's not an interest of mine. My interest is health, wellness, and bodybuilding. So certainly I do understand that if I wanted to take a more bodybuilding focused approach, that 180 milligrams of testosterone a week with no steroids added to it, just that testosterone would probably not be enough to get me terribly far in, the IFBB. However, as I believe I had mentioned, I'm curious about what it could do for me in the NPC, seeing as how after 17 years of competing, I was competing at a pretty darn high level naturally, and maintaining a physique that was able to be pretty competitive naturally, even with apparently relatively low testosterone levels. So we'll see what happens with all of that. But in the meantime, this is really just to document how I'm feeling so far. I thought it'd be interesting to just kind of go week by week and get into how I'm feeling, what's going on, any changes I've noticed. I will touch on areas that I'm expecting to see changes in the future but have not yet, and just kind of run through it all. So the quick notes to make: in the gym, I don't think there's really any change. Maybe I'm getting a little bit more of a pump when I work out. Sorry, there's a dog that just walked by outside and I was waiting to see if she'd start barking again. Maybe I'm getting a little bit more of a pump when I work out, but not like something that lasts throughout the duration of the workout. Just a little bit extra muscle fullness in the muscle that I'm training while I'm training it. Now again, I'm less than 2 weeks in, so I wasn't anticipating that I would notice any significant gym changes at this point. My understanding from talking to my gym buddies who've played with testosterone as well as other pharmaceuticals is that it's probably going to be at least 2 to 3 weeks before some of those start to come on. But so that might be something that as soon as next week I do start to notice. But as of now, nothing there aside from, again, maybe a little bit more muscle fullness in a muscle group while I'm training it. Those pumps still fade just as quickly as they always have for me. I've never been somebody who gets crazy pumps when I work out, unless, maybe when I was younger, like when I was in my 20s and I would have my cheat meals. That when I was younger, my cheat meals would often be like 7,000 to 8,000 calories in a meal. They'd be absurd. And now I would do like a light breakfast, either go for a run or do a circuit workout or whatever, I felt like doing for kind of like my cardio on a Sunday. And then I would usually have my cheat meal right after that. That meal, again, would be 7,000 to 8,000 calories, sometimes even a little more. But then for the rest of the day, I wouldn't have more than maybe a protein shake and a light salad. So it wasn't like I was taking in normal meals on top of that, like my full day would usually end probably under 10,000 calories, even if I had 8,000 or so calories in that sitting. So it'd just be this one massive meal, and then honestly a lot of laying around on the couch and watching TV for the rest of the day. So not the best for health, or not anything that I would necessarily recommend. But I found when I was younger that doing that and then being super regimented with my diet the rest of the week made it really easy for me to maintain a caloric deficit, emotionally, physically, made it easy for me to kind of, I don't know, I always had trouble not losing weight too fast. And it seemed like it created this balance where I was able to more easily navigate the waters of losing half a pound to a pound a week and just bring it down nice and slow like that. And honestly, I would have eating competitions with my buddies sometimes, and I thought that was kind of fun. So not anything that I'm necessarily advocating or recommending, but it was something I did. It was something I had very good success with. With the ulcerative colitis, that obviously steered me away from that. I didn't ever want to push my gut to that extent, because it would get to a point where I would just feel so, I guess, full that it was borderline uncomfortable. Not always, but there were days. But every single time that I did that, the next day in the gym, I would get pretty crazy pumps. A lot of times people would be asking me, like, what did you do? What are you doing? And they, like, everybody thought I took steroids the day before and I blew up the day after. It was just, interesting response that I would get. And even though it was every week, it still seemed to be common that people would be responding to me like that, the Monday after I would do this. And then by the end of the week, I was, back down to my normal size, or maybe just a little bit down. Anywho, so I'm not even getting pumps on that level. But for my normal, just kind of maintenance calories, I feel like it's kind of uncommon for me to get much of a pump when I train. And if I do, a lot of times it won't even make it through the duration of training a muscle group. Now it's at least lasting throughout the duration of training that muscle group. As soon as I start another muscle group, I feel like one set on another muscle group and that pump on whatever. So like today I did biceps, shoulders, and legs. Throughout all of biceps, I had a pretty good pump in my biceps. I think I did one set of lateral raises before the pump in my biceps was essentially gone. But then throughout shoulders, I had a good pump in my shoulders. And then same thing by the time I got to legs, shoulders were gone basically immediately. But again, good pump on my legs throughout the whole leg workout. I felt a lot of great muscle activation. Things felt really good. Sometimes the muscle pump is just nice because it almost increases that sense of like the being able to focus on that muscle contraction and activation. So it feels good when I'm training. It's a little bit more reminiscent of maybe my 20s, where I felt like it was more common for me to feel at least that. But it's certainly not anything where I'm getting these like splitting pumps, or walking out of the gym looking like, a Popeye character who blew my thumb and pumped up or anything like that. My body weight is essentially the same. I was around 204.5 to 205.5 pretty consistently before I started. I've been hanging right in that same ballpark. I had one morning that I was 205.8 and one that I was 206 even, but those were not like the past 2 days. I actually dropped down after that and then kind of stabilized, and I mostly, we'll just call it between 204 and 206 to make it easier. I haven't broken outside of that fluctuation. Some days are down a little, some up a little bit. I haven't seen any sort of trend up at this point. Again, not that I was expecting to. I'm just kind of sharing because I'd imagine that as I go, I might start to see some more changes there. And so I want to include kind of, I guess, this right now, because I also want it to be noted when those changes do happen and kind of what that time frame was before I started to see some of that. The biggest things that I've noticed so far, one of them might sound kind of silly, but I drink a lot of water throughout the day, and I pee a lot. I feel like I've been peeing less frequently. Now, my prostate's always been healthy, so I don't believe it has anything to do with that. And if anything, higher testosterone would be maybe a problem there, but I just feel like I don't have the urge to go to the bathroom quite as frequently, which when I was younger was also a common thing for me. I felt like I was able to drink the same amount of water and I wouldn't have to go to the bathroom quite as often, and I'm feeling that again. The other thing is I've always drank a lot of water, and I always drink water pretty much right up until I go to sleep because that's just, I don't know, what I do. I feel good doing that. But when I was in like college and even probably up into like my mid to late 20s, I felt like I could drink water right up until I went to sleep. A lot of times finishing a full one of these, this is about 30 ounces or so, within about half an hour of going to bed. And I might wake up to pee once in the middle of the night, or I might not wake up to pee at all. And I could go a good 7, 8 hours without having to wake up and go to the bathroom, usually. Not always, some nights I might have to pee. But it wasn't like a common theme that I always had to pee in the middle of the night. For the past few years, probably at least 3 or 4 years, I can't think of exactly when it started, I don't know if I've made it through a night without having to get up to pee once, if not twice. And it just always. So I haven't changed my water intake daily. I haven't changed when I don't stop drinking water earlier. But the past probably 4 nights, I haven't woken up to pee during the night one time. Not once in 4 nights. I don't remember the last time that's happened for me. Like it's definitely been a long time. So that's been interesting for me, but it's been nice because I feel like I'm getting better sleep. Now with that, and I'm sure that there's some correlation here, I've also noticed the past 2 days, but I have felt so much more energy and focus throughout the day. And then today was my first work day of those 2 days because yesterday was Easter. But sitting in front of a computer has always kind of been like the bane of my existence in my work career. And I haven't had to do it a lot up until maybe the past 5 years. So I didn't have to do that much when I was in my 20s. But in my 30s, I've had to do it increasingly often and for longer durations of time. And a lot more so the past year or two. And in the past year or two, it has just been the hardest thing in the world for me to actually focus once probably about 2:30 or 3 o'clock hits. Some days I'll try and take a little power nap and see if that'll rejuvenate me. It never does. It's enough for me to at least mentally force myself to get some more work done, but generally speaking, it's very hard for me to be productive after about 3 p.m. I don't know, that's just how it is for me. I don't know why, but now I am usually up between 4:30 and 5 in the morning, so it's not like I'm waking up at 8 or 9 and then by 3 I'm already useless, but still not even 12 hours into the day, and it's been pretty common for me for the past few years that I don't get much done after about 3. So I've tried to kind of set my days up so that way I am getting more done earlier in the day, just knowing that if I don't, I end up almost feeling like I just did nothing for the whole day. But today, I mean, the reason I'm doing this video after 6 p.m. is because I didn't realize how late it was, and I was in front of my computer for almost the entire day, and I felt focused. I actually had to add 2 meals together because I missed a meal because I completely lost track of time. And I haven't had that kind of focus. And now this isn't with caffeine or anything else. This is just being zoned into what I was doing. I'm sure the sleep is helping. I'm thinking possibly the testosterone is helping too, but just no fatigue, no brain fog midday. That alone makes this whole, I think, experiment well worth it to me. If that maintains and I don't see anything else with this, I think this would be something that I would seriously consider advocating for people to consider. I know there's a couple considers in there, lots of qualifications on that statement, but truly, and we'll see how things move forward, but how I feel today and just the energy and the focus that I've had today have been pretty amazing. And I haven't felt this, again, in years, especially like throughout a day like this. Unless I'm out and doing things. If I'm out and active, it's always been easier for me. But to be able to maintain this kind of energy and focus while I'm sitting down in front of a computer has always been very hard for me. But especially it's been very hard for me over the past few years. I shouldn't say always, because again, I didn't do it much in my younger years. But in the times I've had to do it, it's been a struggle for me consistently. So, yeah, I guess just kind of rambling here, but that, I guess, wraps up kind of what my experience is thus far. Like I said, I know I'm relatively early into this, so I wasn't anticipating much, if any, changes at this point, but I just wanted to start consistently making some videos talking about it a little bit, because I thought it'd be a little bit interesting, if for me, if no one else, to be able to go into what I'm noticing and when I'm noticing it. And one of the reasons I really wanted to sit down today and talk about this was because I had a couple days in a row where I'm like, man, I've been sleeping really well. I noticed I haven't been waking up and going to the bathroom at all for a few days now. And gosh, I just sat in front of a computer all day long today, and I didn't zone out. I was focused. I have energy. I didn't, like, my eyes don't feel tired. Like, I feel good. So it was a pretty exciting kind of moment for me. And then as I thought about it a little bit more as I was eating, I'm like, there has been a little bit going on, and I think enough to talk about. So I wanted to kind of start to introduce some of this.